Are your quilting blocks small, or perhaps they're wonky and out of square? To get accurate piecing, you need the trifecta of accurate cutting, straight sewing, and a really good ironing technique. In this video, I will be concentrating on accurate cutting. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. The foundational skills of quilting are so important for accurate piecing. It's been a while since I've made the video, How to Sew Straight, and a really good ironing technique. So it's about time I make that video on accurate cutting. Cutting is my favorite part of making a quilt. It is my happy place. Cutting the strips and then the strips into pieces, putting them all into stacks and sets. Honestly, I could quit right here and be happy. But it wasn't long before I realized that there was more to cutting straight than just grabbing a rotary cutter. You need 4 items for accurate cutting: a rotary cutter, a ruler with an 1/8 of an inch ledge, a cutting mat, and a steady table. And the key word in that is steady. My island countertop is ideal. It's flat and movable and at the right height for me. That is, the angle that my elbow makes is just a little bit bigger than 90 degrees. This is a luxury and I know it. And I used to do my cutting on my dining room table or on my desk in my sewing room. And if they are too low, you can add risers to get the height that you need. Give your table a good shake. If it moves, see if you can stabilize it by tightening up some screws or adding a leg support. Even just pushing it against a wall can help. Sometimes a table is steady in one direction, but not the other. Or you might have hills and valleys in your tabletop that you might need to either shim or avoid. And your table is the foundation that the other 3 work upon. The rotary cutter is an amazing invention. Previously, quilters had to cut out templates and then trace around it onto fabric, and then cut everything with scissors. So we can all be thankful for the time saving in a rotary cutter. Choose the right one for the job. Small sizes are good for curves and cutting notches. The larger ones are good for cutting long strips or multiple layers at once. And there are a number of different styles and sizes, but choose the one that fits comfortably in your hand. But the rotary cutter does not work alone. You need a ruler with a ledge and a cutting mat. Be sure to buy your rulers and cutting mats from established brands like OLFA or FISKARS, Creative Grids, or Omnigrid, just to name a few. These companies have built their reputation upon measurement accuracy. Be wary of the no-name brands that you can find on Wish and Amazon, which may be fine for other crafts that don't require the precision that quilting does. Cutting mats come in all sorts of sizes. For quilting, we need one that has its longest side 24 inches or more so that we can cut those widths of fabric strips. If you've had yours for a while, take a good look. Is it still flat? Cutting mats need to be kept away from heat. That can be a radiator or sunlight. And be sure to store them flat. For rulers, we want the ones with an 1/8 of an inch ledge and are clear. They come in all sorts of sizes and with different types of markings. Choose the size and shape that works for what you want to do. And be sure that your cutting station has a clear space so that your rulers can lie flat and your arms have room to move. We have a ruler with a ledge, and we have a rotary cutter with a sharp blade. The ruler serves to mark your line and keep the rotary blade straight as it travels up your fabric. So it's very important that your ruler remains stationary while you cut. You place your hand so that the force is coming straight down from above and not from the sides. And you might need a little bit of friction on the bottom to help it stay still as well. In my video, Sewing Hacks from the Dollar Store, I showed how first aid tape is an inexpensive solution. And if your hands are not strong enough, don't hesitate to use a weight to make it work. You want to be confident that your ruler will not move so that you don't clench up. Your rotary cutter should have the blade on the inside. And if you can't remember the last time you changed your rotary blade, do it now. You roll your shoulders back. Let your arms hang from your shoulder blades. You pull in your abs like you're zipping up your pants, and you put one foot slightly in front of the other. I want to be just to the side so that when my arm goes out, it's going in a straight motion. We start here with your ruler just before your fabric, and then you are just going to shift your weight forward and just push straight through. So your arm is providing the power and your hand is doing the guidance. Let's watch that again from another angle. There is no bend in my wrist. The power is coming from my arm and my hand is merely guiding my ruler. Make sure it extends past the end of your fabric. If you need to make long cuts, such as width of fabric strips, stop your blade at your fingertips so that there's still pressure between the ruler and your blade, and walk your fingers up the ruler, then press down again, and then continue cutting. Or use that weight I was telling you about. I was really surprised at how well this worked, and I'm embarrassed that it took me so long to use it. And what if your ruler is not long enough? You can use a method similar to what I just described, just adding an extra pause to be sure that the ruler is aligned properly. Or you can use multiple rulers with their edges lined up. Understand that the cut is happening here, where the blade meets the cutting mat. So if your blade is not sharp enough, we clench. And when we clench, several things can happen. First, the fabric is no longer being cut here, but here, lower in the cutting mat. And this pulls your fabric inward and pushes your fabric forward in a wave. Secondly, all that extra pressure messes up your form so that your blade may no longer be straight against the ruler, or it may actually push your ruler off its line. And thirdly, if we are so focused on whether our blade is actually going to cut our fabric, we are not concentrating on where our hands are, if our measurement is correct, and other items that might be in our space. If you are using a brand name ruler and cutting mat, the lines on both should be accurate. There are quilters out there that say that you cannot interchange brands, but in my experience, that simply isn't true. But what you do need to understand is that the measurements are made from the midpoint of the lines, which can be quite different depending on the brand. The lines can also be different thicknesses depending on the increment. So get to know your rulers. So you might be thinking everything I've shown you is possible under ideal conditions, but we've all had times where we've had to cut backwards, underhanded, or sitting down. How can we cut straight then? You can still apply the above. Is your blade sharp? Are you clenching? Is your wrist bent or is it straight? Is your ruler still? Are you able to run the blade straight along the ruler without pushing? And if you are sitting, can you turn the mat towards you, or can you move your chair so that you're in front of the cutting mat and that you're cutting away from you? Is the height of your chair adjusted so that your shoulder, elbow, and hand are in the right position? Just a few more things. Crisp fabrics are easier to cut. So if one is giving you difficulty, use some spray starch or sizing to make your fabric stiffer. Unless you are making a show quilt, it's rare that we need to measure anything in microns. So understand that accuracy has its limits. And not all cuts are equal. When you're trimming in between two HST blocks, we can eyeball those with scissors if needs be. And when we are squaring up quilts, we can even cut twice. We can cut once to remove all the excess fabric and batting, and a second one to make it square. And lastly, not only does accuracy in cutting take practice, it also works hand in hand with sewing straight and a really good ironing technique. So get out your scraps and start practicing with some scrap sampler blocks and some scrap strip blocks. Last week on Karen's Quilt Circle, I had Kimberly Jolly, a fat quarter shop, and we were talking about changes. She gave us a great peek behind the scenes, and you don't want to miss it, so I'll leave a link in the notes below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell beside the subscribe button so that YouTube will notify you when I make new videos. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Just Get It Done Quilts, and my website at justgetitdonequilts.com. So take care, and I'll see you next time.